Welcome everybody, Tulsa Music Stream, and today's episode is a special episode. It's like a lunch special. You know, if you're hungry and you want to sit down and watch an interview with Doug, then here we are.
Absolutely.
At Tulsa Music Stream. How's everybody doing?
Yep. Good day to you. We're super excited to be joined by Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies. His resume is stellar. We did receive late notification just a little bit ago that unfortunately Glenn Hughes is not available to join us today, but we are equally excited to talk to Doug Aldrich. He is already in the room waiting for us, so I'm going to bring him on screen. Good morning, Doug. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me, and sorry Glenn couldn't be here.
It's no problem. Is he? We hope everything's okay. We don't need any scoop or details. Just hope he's doing all right.
He's just feeling a bit under the weather, and just needs to rest his voice a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, but he'll be back on his feet in no time.
Okay, that's great. Now you guys are supposed to play a show tonight in Nashville. Is that correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen tonight.
Okay.
He's under doctor's orders to rest today.
Okay.
But these things happen. You know, you have to navigate around them, and but he's going to be fine.
Okay, that's really good news. That was definitely the first order of business we wanted to talk to you about. But let's get right into this new album. I'm going to put the cover up for everybody. This is you guys' new album called Radiance. And the release date on this is September 30th. So it's just a couple weeks away. You can get your hands on this. We need everybody watching to make sure you go out and pre-order your copy. And you can get that at thedeaddaisies.com/radiance-album. We need everybody to pick that up. Doug, I can tell you, man, I've heard 3 songs off that album so far: Shine On, Radiance, and Face Your Fears, which is your newest video. It is a wall of sound that caves your head in, and that's how Scott and I like our rock and roll on this show. So do you mind kind of walking us through the process of the creation and the recording of this album, and also how it was to work with your producer, Ben Gross, for a second time on this album?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, Ben's amazing. He's a big part of, definitely a big part of the sound. He crafted the sound that was in his head. But it started off in, we had done the last album, Holy Ground, in 2019. And it was ready to come out in 20, and then we had to stop, obviously. And so once we realized that we were going to be out of commission for basically the whole year, Glenn and I started to, Glenn said, hey, I've got a few ideas. If you want to, we could get together and write. And so we kind of, he was the only person I saw during the lockdowns in 2020, but we put together about 10 songs, really good demos. And then we were still trying to technically promoting Holy Ground, which was getting ready to come out in December of 2020. Right. Then we pushed that to January. So we put those songs on hold, and then we started to promote Holy Ground, and we started touring, did a couple runs in the US and a run in the UK. Mm-hmm. And then finally we were going to go start in Europe this year around February, and that got pushed back. So then we decided, okay, what should we do? We decided, let's go make a record. Right. And we already had a good start. So we recorded 6 more songs, and then picked, I think, 12 to go in the studio. Mm-hmm. And along with Ben, we picked those 12 and started recording. And we got Brian Tichy back.
Right. Made
the songs even better than they were. Basically, Brian Tichy makes everything better when he plays on it. I mean, he's just an amazingly talented musician, drummer, guitar player. And, I played my normal way, but Ben definitely had me come in and put some heavier guitars on, as well as David. He wanted to make sure he had some flavors that was in his head. Right. That's how he is. He's like a Martin Scorsese type of guy, where he's got this vision in his head or sound in his head, and he wants to make sure he's got it covered for when he goes to mix it, he can crank up those heavy guitars or whatever. So it's a big sound.
Yeah. It's huge.
And it's amazing how the transition when Glenn came in the band, and I don't know how many songs he brought to the table. I'm sure quite a few, but tell us how the songwriting changed from, the last two albums, from the rest, have changed. It's kind of a little heavier sound, but Glenn is just kicking ass on it, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, so originally before Glenn, we would sit down together and just write together. We would all grab guitars, and we wouldn't bring anything finished in, because really we were working with a different producer, and it was a different process. When Glenn got in the band, Glenn rang me up and said, "I've got a few ideas I want to present," and I knew right away that he was going to be presenting like kind of finished riffs or finished ideas. So I started to, at that point, start to write for what I could present to Glenn, on the other hand. And that's what I would do with anybody, with David Coverdale or Glenn or Dio. I would write something and say, give it to them, and for their consideration, not saying like, hey, this is going to be a song. It's like, if you like this, we'll work on it.
Sure.
So that's how I would approach it. And then with Glenn, the ideas that Glenn had, I helped him arrange things and I get to put my stamp on it. In the end, on Radiance, it's pretty much between he and I and David Lowy, it's pretty much equal. We all brought stuff to the table. David brought in Shine On, the original riff for Shine On, and then Glenn and I finished that, as well as a song called Born to Fly, which you haven't heard yet, but it's really cool. Glenn brought in a couple that you would definitely know as Glenn. When you hear the album, a song called Cascade is classic Glenn. Mm-hmm. And the riff of Radiance, which you've heard, is classic Glenn. And then I came up with the chorus chords for that. And I think lyrically, it's just a really positive album. Glenn wrote all the lyrics, basically. So that's pretty much it. It's a team effort, but we always start with somebody's idea.
So was it kind of a breath of fresh air when Glenn came into the fold? Because there's a huge lineup, and you've been in the band the longest, it seems, than probably everyone.
I guess I'm like the senior member now.
You need to get like a discount card or something, right. Senior discount.
And we all know that in band years, it's like dog years. Every year is like 7.
Yeah,
true.
But it's it seems like there's just it's like new blood. Even though he's bringing some of his, I guess he's a professional guy for quite a while too. So he's bringing some of that old school stuff in there. But it just seems new. It seems like a fresh of breath, new air for me.
Fresh air,
yeah, fresh air.
Yeah. Well, it's anytime you change a singer, you're gonna have a major turn. And that was one of the things that was, in my opinion, a really interesting and cool thing is getting Glenn in, because he basically was completely a different sort of musician than John Corabi. Mm-hmm. John was great. John does his thing. He's amazing. He's a great front man, a great singer. Glenn's just a whole different kind of guy and an amazing bass player as well. So when Glenn came in, of course, the sound's going to change and the opportunities for certain songs open up. And I was really excited about it. So with the Dead Daisies people, some people, of course, always are going to miss somebody if they leave.
Right.
But then you got other people that go, oh, I'm really excited to hear this with Glenn or whatever. So, that's the way that David Lowy started this thing. It was to be a roundabout, like a situation where you can jump on, play some music, create with the band, and you can jump off like Brian Tishy did. He jumped out for a couple of years, and then now he's back. And with regard to Glenn, now he's the third lead singer. So this is kind of like Dead Daisies Mark III.
That was one of my next questions, and it's probably different in every case, but I'm just curious about this. When someone does step out of the band, I'm guessing that it's typically by their choice. It's not that the rest of you have decided that you've gotten as far as you can with that individual, and you want to take it in a different direction. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's always, this is a family. I mean, we're all friends before anything else here. I've known Glenn for over 20 years probably. And, I love him like a big brother. I love John Corabi as well. I mean, it was just, I think, in that situation, John wanted to focus on his solo stuff, and he wanted to take a break. And he had an album he wanted to promote. Same thing with Marco. So we were going to take a break, and then we decided, well, let's just, see who's available. And Glenn stepped up. He met with the guys, and here we are, 3 years. Glenn's been in the band 3 years now, so
yeah.
It's amazing.
It's pretty good.
I saw the Dead Daisies on the Kiss Def Leppard tour. I believe that's right.
Okay, that was before my time.
Yeah, that's before your time. So I was wondering, are there any hopes for getting on some sort of a major tour coming up? I know I heard that Motley and Def Leppard are looking to do another world tour, so that might be something that would be cool to get onto.
That would be cool. I don't know. At this point, we have we're in the middle of our U.S. run, and we're really excited to be doing this. We've got there's the dates right there. So we're going to wrap up this, and we're going to have a little time off. Of course, we're always individually working on music or playing, and naturally leads to sometimes composing together or whatever. But then we at the moment we have a British tour in beginning of December, I believe, for 3 weeks. And that's what we got for this year. Next year, we haven't really figured out what we're doing yet. But yeah, it would be awesome to be on a tour with one of those bands.
I hope you don't mind us kind of getting a little bit into the weeds on just the musical gear side of things and recording, because he and I are musicians. Our other co-host who can't be with us today also is. When I heard those first guitar chunks on this recording, it is truly a wall of sound. And I've done a little recording myself. I know that a lot of times to have that kind of sound, you're building layer upon layer of guitar tracks with, some will have distinctly different EQ settings. Do you remember at all in your mind how many layers of guitars went down, or is this just more of a case of you guys are just using incredible amps and you don't really have to layer it up all that much?
No, it is layered. You got a great ear. And it's cool that you went in the weeds. And I love it. I mean,
right on.
We have a weed whacker available, so we can handle it. But no, it's I would say our general plan was to do one guitar each. That's what we did when we were tracking. We'd go in, we'd have the arrangement, we'd get in the control room, we'd kind of play through it on acoustics and get comfortable with the arrangement, make whatever changes we wanted to make there. Then we'd get in the room with Brian, and all four of us would play through the song, and he would start to dial in his parts. He's very musical, where he would go like, what do you guys hear? Do you hear like an open hi-hat quarter notes, or do you hear a bell eighth notes, and then he, of course, instinctively knows what to do. He would say, hey, if you guys want to make that riff heavier, I can play it like this. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's like, so that's one factor. Brian would make things heavier. During the time when Glenn and I were doing demos, I had a little plugin on my Pro Tools, a SansAmp plugin, which is like a distortion thing. And just being lazy, he wanted to get a little more of an amp sound, so I just stuck that plugin on there, and I found a setting. He really loved it, and so that's what we used on the album. And
wow!
So his bass has got a heavily overdriven kind of tubey sound. You can hear it on Radiance. Not every song has it as much, but and then it was going to be one guitar each for me and David. And as we're playing through the song, we would all start to hone in on our part. So that would be that, and then we'd go in and fix those parts so that they were, if there was a mistake or somebody hit a wrong chord or if somebody was rushing a part, we'd go fix that.
Yeah.
But then Ben wanted me to double my parts just so he had it.
Yeah.
Even though, because sometimes I think he would be like, okay, in some songs I'm going to have you and David split On other songs, I want to have David in the middle, kind of up higher, and have you on the outside for support. I don't really know exactly. I need to really listen with, because I've just been listening to the album as like fresh, like I got away from it. Now I can just relax and enjoy it. But then Ben would have me come in, or David, and play through, and I used my Marshalls. David had Friedman BE 100s that he used. We had some plugins that were really effective. But then Ben has this one Marshall that he loves, and he would be like, I need you to come in. I need you for 2 hours to come in and play a couple bits on the crazy Marshall. Mm-hmm. And this Marshall is just very punchy and alive sounding. And then he'd say, I need a top line. I need you to just, come up with something, maybe I might do a high octave thing or something, just ear candy stuff.
Sure.
But the majority of the sound is probably, 3 or 4 guitar tracks and Glenn's bass, and that's the wall.
That's awesome. And that's what's so funny about, sometimes you just do a track by itself and you're thinking that doesn't sound any good, but then once you stick it with those other tracks, that's what builds the wall, and it's just an amazing guitar tone. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing sound, and actually, after doing a lot of research, on you and of course Glenn, I saw like a YouTube video of you just kind of going in detail about all of your pedals, your amps and everything you use, all your guitars. You have one, I guess, a dog bit into or something. It's really cool. But it was very interesting. We watched all of that, and it was really cool for you to kind of break all that down. But I wanted to kind of, you've worked with so many amazing singers, and we're going back from Ronnie James Dio, John Corabi, and then David Coverdale, and recently he's had to I don't know if get out, retire. I don't know what's going on. I know we just got tickets to the Scorpions and Whitesnake tour, and I'm not sure. I guess that Whitesnake's not going to be there.
Right.
I don't know. Did you kind of feel like this was kind of coming a little bit for him, or?
No, I was really shocked to, we text a lot over the past couple of years. We always text and just check in, say hi, and birthdays and stuff. And he heard that we had gotten COVID on tour in the summer, and he texted me and said, hope you guys are going to be okay. And we started texting and stuff, and all of a sudden he said, I'm feeling. He didn't get COVID. He had a nasal infection that was really bad, and he had to kind of cut the tour short. And that's why I think, I don't know, it's not my place to say really, but
sure,
I think that's why he wanted to David Coverdale always wants to give 1,000%.
Right.
And same with Glenn. If they're not going to do it 1,000%, then it's not worth doing. That's how these guys are. And that's how Ronnie was too. That's the quality of these musicians or singers. They're not going to do something half-assed. They don't need to do it. They don't need the money.
Right.
They want to put on a great show. So I think David will be back. I hope so. I think he's in good health now. I think he's all good, but I think that, he wants to regroup and pick it back up, and maybe next year is what I'm hoping, because, he's a legend, and if he's going to retire, he deserves the opportunity to go around the world and say goodbye to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sucks that you're kind of doing a farewell, and you can't even do your farewell, at this point. But we surely hope that he gets healthy and back out there and everything. But I heard that you actually tried out with Kiss. Kiss is one of my favorite bands. Well, actually, they are my favorite band. So I was actually surprised to know that you were in there, doing the auditions to replace Ace Frehley, and I think that's just a remarkable story.
It's pretty funny.
As a young rocker, that had to be just mind blowing for you.
It was. It's very surreal, that whole thing, because I basically moved to California to go to college, and I told my parents I was going to go to Santa Monica College, which is turns out it's a lot of musicians have come out of there, but I wasn't ready to go back to school after my after graduating high school, I stepped in, 1 foot in, and I looked around and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. Yeah. So my parents said, okay, well, we're not gonna pay for you to be there, so you're gonna have to get a job and figure it out, you know. And so I got a job working in a music store, and immediately there's a newspaper that had musicians looking for other musicians, and I joined this group of guys, and we started immediately writing songs and also doing some covers. We started playing in Hollywood, and a girl said that her boyfriend was the drummer of Kiss and that they were looking for a guitar player. I was like, oh, cool. And she was like, I think you'd be really good for that. And I said, really? I didn't know if I believed her. Right. But then a couple weeks later, we were playing, and Eric Carr came, and I wouldn't have known it was him except the hair. You could see he had that big hair. Big. And he said, you know, why don't you give me your number? I said, well, I don't have a phone, but you can call my store where I'm working. So he called me one Saturday and said, I want you to come down to the record plant, which was a famous studio back in the 70s, 80s. And he said, I want you to meet Paul and Gene. And I went down there, and they put on some tracks. They were recording Creatures of the Night, and they put on some tracks, and I played over them kind of just as an audition that. And then Gene wrote down some songs for me to learn. So, can you have these ready by Monday? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I learned the songs, and I went to the rehearsal room, and it was insane, Sky. It was like, I mean, it was like it was like an airport hangar and a full backline. And I had myself 4 Marshall stacks. I only owned 1 cabinet at the time. I had one Marshall cabinet, and here I was playing through 8 cabinets, all cranked.
Wow.
And I'm just jamming with the guys, and it was, you know, it was weird because it wasn't. Nobody had ever seen these guys without their makeup, so I felt a little guilty about that. But I ended up leaving, and they called me back and said, "Hey, we want you to come back again." And that's when I started to go, "Whoa, this is like serious."
Yeah, your heart started going, started beating quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, and so by that time, my car had broken down. My buddy had to drive me, and we went back to play with them again. And I think at that point they could tell that I was just too young. I mean, they were looking for a kind of a guy a little bit more technical. I mean, Ace Frehley is an amazing musician and amazing guitar player, and one of the greats. He was kind of coming from the Jimmy Page school, right? And I think they wanted to update that a little bit. So that's the kind of guitar player they were looking for. But I was just too young. I mean, these guys were giant rock stars dating famous actresses and flying private jets, and I'm like this kid. I mean, I just couldn't relate to them. When we're playing, it was fine, but like sitting down talking, I couldn't. It was just awkward, and I knew it was, but you know, I just had to be myself.
You know, so what's so interesting is how, you know, in today's world we have, you know, all means of communication. We have, you know, emails and text messages and Facebooks and all this, you know, social media, to where you can get the word out that these guys are auditioning, and somehow you were just in the right place at the right time. You know, I suppose, you know, how you got that word, because I mean, most musicians, they didn't even know that there was an audition, and then suddenly you see Vinnie Vincent in makeup or whatever, you know, and you're like, whoa, they replaced Ace Frehley. So it's just interesting how you got all that information.
Yeah, it was a simple time back then, and it was really, I mean, of course we have amazing technology now, and it's awesome. I mean, I'm not complaining at all, but you know, it was kind of magic, you know, where, like you say, I'd get a girl saying, "Hey, I think you should audition for Kiss," and not thinking anything of it. And then 2 weeks go by, and then the drummer comes, and then another week goes by, and he calls, and then another week goes by, and it's like you never know what's going to happen, and I didn't really think about it. But in the end, Eric was really sweet. He called me back. He goes, "Look, we really loved your playing. We think you've got a lot of potential, but we need somebody that's got more experience." And I felt the same way. I mean, I think it was the best thing. I think the worst thing that could happen is for them to give me the gig and have me not be able to handle it. You know, this gave me an opportunity to go like, okay, well, I'm doing something right, so I better start kicking up my game a little bit and trying to get better and take it more serious. And
it gave you something to build on, didn't it?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you did just fine on your own without the Kiss gig. So,
well, I've been very, very lucky. I mean, to say that I've worked with guys like John Corabi and David Coverdale and Ronnie James Dio. Even before that, I worked with Kelly Hansen, who's a powerhouse.
Right.
I've just had incredible luck with singers. I don't know how that happened.
Plus, Kelly's a good cook too.
Yeah, I'll keep you fed.
Yeah, Kelly's a great guy. We did some dates with Foreigner this summer, and he just hasn't changed a bit.
Wow.
He just, we'd become, they were headlining, of course, and we were supporting them on some German dates, and big audiences, really, really great. And we'd come walking up, to the backstage area, and there'd be Kelly leaning out the window saying, "Go home. We don't want you here. Go home." It's just, he's just hilarious,
Okay, I gotta ask. Can I ask you another guitar question? I know we can't keep you super long, so I'm trying to just tear through everything as fast as I can. What's that?
I can't cut you guys off, man. We're in the weeds together.
Heck yes. Well, we're gonna stay in the weeds with this one. I hope I don't lose any viewers on this, but I have to ask. So I've analyzed your playing, Doug, and you shred. I know you use your pinky some, but it seems like the bulk of your shredding comes from your first three fingers. And I just kind of want to know, like, is it just more comfortable to do it that way, or is that how you were taught, or just how it feels right?
It's basically because the majority of my power is between those three fingers.
Right.
But then in order to get a stretch, like, I got a guitar right here.
There you go.
There you go.
Nice.
In order to get a stretch, so like if you're, I don't think you can hear that. Let me plug it in. Hang on. I don't have a pick.
You're okay.
But I'll show you. So basically, wait a minute. So basically, if you're doing like,
there you go.
You can't see that. Here we go. Now you can see. Okay. So there you got those three fingers. But if you want to do that, then you got to have that pinky.
Right.
So that's basically it. And like for some really big stretches, so it's like that kind of thing.
So that just,
but the majority of the workforce is these three, but then this guy comes in to add a little bit stretch when you want to throw in a high note or something.
Well, I think I need to rethink my playing then, because I've actually learned a lot. I've done a whole bunch of research the last few days on you and watched a lot of older videos, and I noticed that. I thought, wow, because some guys you'll see them use their pinky a little bit more than you do, and I swear, dude, you shred faster with your first primary three fingers than a lot of guys do with four, and it's just really. I just wanted to talk about that with you.
That's cool. Now when I on this new Daisies album, I'm trying to play more melodic, more for the song. Like for example, the title track "Radiance." It's a really hypnotic riff, super heavy riff, and it's got this melodic chorus. So when it came to the solo section, which is basically over the verse, it didn't feel like it could take any fire shred. It felt like it needed to be, fit the song basically.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm trying to do, and less is more on this album. I think overall. So there is some fire. There was a couple times when I told Ben, he'd be like, "I love it. I love that solo." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool, but it's missing. Like, I gotta put it's a little bit. Like, I gotta put some fire in there, man. A little bit." And he would be like, he'd go, what do you think? And I go, well, I think I should just come in blazing and start off with some fire and then build it from there into a melody.
Yeah.
And he would go, go give it a shot. So I would do it, and I go, what do you think? He'd be like, man, I'm okay with that. I liked it how it was, but I'm okay if you think. And then I would go, well, let me try it the other way. Let me try coming in with the melody, and then at the end, I'll put some fire in there. And then I'd say, what do you think? He'd be like, that to me works better. So that's what I did. You know, I basically worked together with him. And there was one song that people will hear later. It's not on the album, but it's called "Let It Set You Free," and it's a song that Glenn brought. It's a really beautiful song. And then I wrote a solo melody that was Glenn. He was concerned. He was like, Doug, you know, you gotta stay melodic on this. And I go, don't worry, I know what to do. The song speaks for itself. So I worked up this really cool melody, and Glenn loved it. And it was a demo, and then put it in the back burner during all last year. And we came to give Ben the demos for the new songs. He goes, man, I really love that solo, but I think there's an opportunity for you to go even further with that melody. And I'm like, I can't hear anything else. It's in my head like that. Yeah. And he really pushed me. He's like, this is your opportunity to do like a Maybe I'm Amazed type of guitar solo. You know that Paul McCartney song?
Yes.
Maybe I'm Amazed. It's got a great guitar melody into it. And I go, well, it kind of already is that, Ben. He goes, yeah, but you gotta try some other things. You gotta give it a shot. I'm like, I don't know what to do. What are you hearing? He goes, I don't know, just play. So I was just like, damn it, man, come on. You know, I was a little bit pissed off because I'm like, I don't know, I don't, it's just in my head. This melody's it's been in my head for a year. But I just put my hand in a different place on the neck and tried something. And he's like, there you go. You're getting somewhere, keep going. And eventually he pushed the hell out of me until I got a new melody, which I will admit is actually stronger than my original one. So
yeah,
I think more. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and that's the beauty of working with a producer who squeezes everything out of you, and then you actually end up being happier with your end product as well.
It's always good to learn something. I mean, when I was younger, I would go in the studio and thought I knew it all. I mean, when I was working with Hurricane, with Kelly Hansen, we had a producer that worked with Kiss. In fact, he, I think, was in the studio during Creatures of the Night, Michael James Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a small world, man. It's
no
like
doubt.
So weird. But he was producing Hurricane, and I came into the band, and we wrote a record, and we're in the studio, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly how I wanted it to sound, and Michael James Jackson was like, it's exactly how I don't want it to sound. And I'm like, I don't give a crap. This is what I do. This is how I'm doing it, you know?
Wow.
And years later on the Kiss cruise, I ran into Michael James Jackson, and I said, hey, I want to apologize because I was just a smart ass kid, you know, back then. And I really think you made a really great record. At the time, I didn't like the record as much as I thought I would because there were too many fingers in the sauce. But it's always good to learn, you know. I would give that advice, don't feel threatened if somebody says, I want you to try the same part but play it on a Telecaster through a JC120.
Now, didn't Michael James Jackson, didn't he just recently pass away?
Hope not. I don't know.
Oh man, I think I might have saw something where Paul Stanley put out a tweet or something about it. I'll have to look that up, but yeah, hopefully I'm not.
I'll look it up after we're done. That would be sad. I didn't know that. I saw it was. I believe it was 2017 when I saw him.
Oh wow.
And you know, so who knows what, you know, we've lost a lot of people during COVID stuff. So I hope it's not true, but if it is true, God bless him, and I'm glad that I was able to apologize for my.
I'm not 100% on that. I'll have to check that, but you know, like with Ronnie James Dio and all these people that you've surrounded yourself with, and it's just an amazing ladder. You know, it's just how you were able to just climb and be able to be in this profession for such a long time, but then at the same time,
purely luck. It's
right,
luck, man. Seriously, there's people that I know, guys and girls. There are people that are way more talented than me that don't get their fair shake of an opportunity. For some reason, I've been really lucky.
You know, with that said, you know, then comes Glenn, and that's just a monster, a mountain of talent and everything that he's done in his career. And, you know, preparing for this interview, we had to prepare some questions for Glenn, but I had a question I was going to ask Glenn, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just turn this question into a question for you. And it was about the 1974, the California Jam, the Ritchie Blackmore incident where he's just going off the rails. And I don't know if you've seen that footage where he's just demolishing his guitars and blowing up his amp and with pyro and just the band just keeps going and just letting him go off, you know. And has Glenn ever talked to you about that?
Yeah, I mean, he said part of their contract was that they were not supposed to play in the daylight; they were supposed to be at night. And he said that the show was moving ahead of schedule somehow. And imagine that, you know, a festival moving ahead of schedule. It's like, doesn't happen. But they said to Purple, we want you guys to go on, and Blackmore said, nope, no way, I'm not going on. Wow. They kept pushing him, and they were like kept bugging him about it. And finally they did go on when it was dusk, I guess. And Blackmore was just pissed. I think he was upset. He didn't, you know, very strong-willed man, very strong character. Yeah. And he was the leader of the band, so it was kind of falling on his shoulders. So that's one thing I remember that Glenn said. Glenn also, it was just iconic that the way Glenn played and looked and sang on that show. It was just incredible. Yeah,
yes, he's all in the white, the whole, you know, the outfit, his hair's just, you know, perfect for the 70s, you know.
I mean, he still is a really, really good-looking person. He's a very fashionistic person, and he would tell you. I've done hundreds of interviews with Glenn, so I can tell you, he would say he got that from his father, his fashion sense, and like we would be on tour together, and we'd go shopping or something, just go walk into a store, and he'd be like, "Oh, Doug, those boots, that's happening right now. You should do that." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if I can pull that off."
Right. It's like certain people can pull things off, and then others are like, I don't know about those flowery boots. I don't know.
I don't know if I could do it, you know. So, but then you, of course, 6 months later, you'd see all these people wearing those shoes.
Right.
But he's just a freak of nature. I mean, the guy is he's a gift to us all. What he's done in his career, especially. You know, his solo stuff is very special, and once you get into Glenn and his solo stuff, that's where really I think his wheelhouse. He's like he's able to experiment with a few different styles and do stuff. With Purple, he did that thing. With before that, Trapeze, that was very big part of his heart, was playing with Trapeze and touring in the US and doing stuff prior to Deep Purple. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, he's done Black Country Communion, which is an awesome band. Now he's done the Dead Daisies. It's the first time he's worked with two guitar players, I think, really. And one of the highlights for us is doing a couple of Deep Purple songs. We do Mistreated and we do Burn. Mm-hmm. And David Loewy plays some really killer inversions against what I'm playing, and it's a big sound that is different than. I mean, I played Mistreated with Whitesnake before, and I played it with Glenn, and this is a different thing. And so Glenn sings it a little differently, and it's really, really cool. I hope people get a chance to come see us on this U.S. run.
Yeah. Our viewers in the chat room did say that Michael James Jackson did die in July. So he passed from complications to COVID.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to have to let you know that.
No, I mean, God bless him. And like I said, I'm glad that I was able to you know, at least apologize for my childish behavior, because I didn't make it easy for him. And there was one story with Michael James Jackson that was really kind of funny. to remember him, I'll tell you the story. We were in the studio and we were cutting on 2-inch tape. It wasn't Pro Tools or anything. Like now, if something happens to a song, gets lost or something, there's always a backup. You can always get it back. But I think, we were getting to the end of the session and we were doing guitar solos and starting to run out of tracks because we wanted to keep it down to 24 tracks, which is really 22 tracks, because 24th track, I'm getting a little deep in the weeds again, but the 24th track would have the SMPTE code on it, which would lock up to the mixer, so you could do rides on the vocal or whatever, and every time you play the tape back, that code would show that, okay, the fader's got to be up there. And then the SMPTE code would bleed into the 23rd track. So 23rd track didn't use it unless it was like something like a percussion, like something loud that would cut through without, you wouldn't really put a guitar in there. So we were kind of trying to clean some tracks, or somebody was trying to clean some tracks, and apparently one of my guitar solos got wiped. Like, oh boy, they'd start at the front of the song, and they'd put it in record, and it would come through, and then somebody was talking or whatever, and somebody must have turned around and go, "Whoa, where's the guitar solo?"
Shoot!
It's on that track. So he and I were kind of like, we were cool and everything, but it was a little tension between us during the recording. And so he said, "Hey, can we go out and have dinner tonight?" And it happened to be a Friday night, I think, or something. And I was like, "Yeah, like what do you want to do? Yell at me about something?" And he took me out, and he was really super nice, really nice. And we just had we had a drink at the bar, and then we went and sat down, and we're eating, we ordered, dinner's coming. He goes, "Look, I and I was like, wow, I'm glad we're really like on a good way. This is cool, And he goes, "There's something I got to tell you." I'm like, and he goes, "It's not great news." I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever it is, I mean, I'll deal with it." He goes, "I erased your solo for, I think it was a song called Let It Slide." And I was like, "That's okay. We'll get. I can kind of remember it. Maybe we have a little
you
rough
never
mix."
you never can do it
the same way twice.
Once you have that magic on there, it's like, ugh.
Right. But the good thing is we had a rough mix on a cassette with part of it or something, I forget. So it gave me the starting, because I forgot what I had done. I totally forgot. But I figured I would just, hey man, it happens. These things happen. And so I went and redid the solo. But then we were in a different place together, because it would be like, we were recording that album, Hurricane album. It was 1989, and I'm just a kid, strong-headed kid, and he would like go, "Doug, the song sounds great, and we've got all your guitars there. It's all good, but I want you to play something with a 1957 Telecaster." And I'd be like, "Oh man, that old piece of junk." now I'd be like, "Are you kidding? I'm gonna get to play something on a 50." I'd be like super into it.
Sure.
And yeah, I know what you want, but at the time I just like, "Come on, man, are you serious?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I want you to, double this part with that clean sound." And I did it begrudgingly, but it was hard work for him to get me to do that stuff. So sure. God bless that kid.
Absolutely.
Now you guys on the last album, I believe you guys went to France to record that, correct?
Yeah. We went to the south of France. We recorded it. It was amazing. I mean, we were living in the studio, bonding together. We'd have breakfast and walk down the hall to the studio, and we'd work all day long. Then we'd go they had chefs on the premises. They would cook for us.
Wow. And
these were French guys, and they knew how to cook anything. It was so good. So we got that record done pretty quickly, and it was a good way for us to, Ben set up the environment in a really productive way so that Glenn could feel comfortable. It was the first time him and David and Dean had worked together. So, but this time we recorded in Los Angeles. It was a little more hectic. I mean, I'll be honest, it was, we've still been dealing with travel things. We couldn't go anywhere really at the beginning of the year, and we were still dealing with all that stuff. So Ben said, "Look, I've got 2 studios in Los Angeles here, so we can record here. And and he's got all his toys there and stuff. So we did it, but we had to, Glenn had to commute like an hour and a half every day. I had to commute maybe, it wasn't that bad, maybe 45 minutes. But it was every day. You go home and then it's like, okay, instead of going to my room and playing guitar and just working on thinking about the songs, I go home and I got my kids that want to have dinner, and then I got to put them to bed and wake up and do breakfast and all that stuff, and then it takes you a little bit out of the zone. But in the end, the album turned out really good. We just hope that people will enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing that you probably, like most of us start at, where we're recording or just jam rehearsals and stuff. There's, beer bottles and cigarettes, butts and ashtrays and cans all over the place. You go from that to chefs giving,
healthy cooking,
giving you food. And it's just amazing how you went from one extreme to the other. And there's nothing but, congratulations to you, man. You worked hard. You've had a great career, and a lot of us fans, we appreciate all that hard work. I know there's a lot of social media out there. People, talk a lot of shit online, but for the most part, all your beloved fans, respect you, and we are proud of you for all the hard work that you have put in, for sure. I just want you to know that.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that. Thanks to both of you. And I've been, like I said, I've been very, very fortunate in my years still playing guitar and being able to make a living and have a family, take care of a family. And my priorities changed when I had kids, so I do know that it's very rare to be able to take care of a family on a musician's budget, but somehow I've been able to do that. But I will say the new album is going to be out September 30th. Yep. I'm grateful to be on it. I'm grateful for working with Ben and David and Glenn, of course. So we want you guys to check it out. You can check it out on Spotify first, and if you like it, get the vinyl, because I've heard the vinyl and it sounds even bigger. It's really great.
There's no way people are not going to like this album. It's incredible what I've heard so far. Go ahead.
I'm going to read you a couple. There's people in the chat room that are watching the whole interview. We like to do our shows live without any editing. We just kind of go raw and get out there, and that way the fans can get in there and listen in and ask questions and things like that. There's Denise Dossing. She says, of course, Doug is an amazing musician, but I just have to say, I swear he is aging backwards, and then puts a smiley face and puts dang. That's good.
It's not. I'm thanks, Denise. It's probably just a filter or something, because I definitely look my age when you see me, but rock music, it keeps you young at heart. I feel like my skin doesn't feel that way, but in my heart, I feel like a kid still.
Sure.
Pick up the guitar. I got the guitar right here. It's with me. A guitar is with me all the time. This guitar, actually, I kind of retired this guitar. I used this in Dio. It's a 1973 Les Paul Custom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I used it with Dio, and the last time I remember using it with him was the day that he was meeting with Tony Iommi to talk about doing some stuff together again, and that was like 2005. And Tony Iommi somewhere here scratched his initials in the back of this guitar.
Oh.
I can't really see it because it's got so many dings and scratches anyways, but I know where it is.
Wow.
But anyway,
that's amazing.
When I got in Whitesnake, I was using this guitar, and David loved it, but I started to realize, I felt like it's kind of a little bit looks like John Sykes or something, because John Sykes had a black custom, and so I retired it, and I just started using my Gold Tops the most, which was like the first good guitar I had when I was a kid. And this is the first time I brought it back on the road. I was like, I thought, I'm gonna bring something different, and I took it to rehearsal and I brought it out, and Brian Tishy was like, dude, that guitar's wicked, man. That's so cool. I'm like, Yeah, I kind of just, haven't played it for a while, but it sounds incredible. And, it's an old tree from the 70s.
Ah, it's so beautiful.
Very cool.
God, it's beautiful.
Elizabeth English Talcott says, are they coming anywhere near Oklahoma on tour? Maybe Rocklahoma next year?
Oh, that would be fantastic. I would love that. I played Rocklahoma once in Whitesnake, and it's such a great festival. It's even better now.
Yeah.
Maybe fingers crossed. That would be really cool.
Awesome.
Definitely would be. You got anything else, Scott?
Well, we are just looking forward to you on the road. We're looking forward to hearing the new album, and I hope that it goes well and everybody gets out and gets a copy of it. It was a pleasure talking to you, Doug, and
yes.
all of you, like I said, all your hard work is paying off, and we are nothing but proud of you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and I look forward to getting back to Oklahoma ASAP, because that's the heart of the country right there, right in the middle.
Yep, and this place loves you. You have a lot of fans in here, and we are fans as well. Thanks again for your time in the middle of the day. We wish you well. Do send our well wishes to Glenn as well. We hope he feels better.
Of course I will.
And
yeah, he will. He'll be okay. He's just, singers, and Glenn is extremely, he takes really good care of his voice. Somewhere he picked up a bug, he can't help it.
No, not at all.
It's not COVID. He's got a little, infection of some kind, but he'll get through it. He went to the doctor yesterday, and he's a very, he's a strong man, so he'll be fine.
Good deal. Much love and appreciation, Doug. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tulsa Music Stream. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. All the best, guys. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
What a nice guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Guy, so down to earth.
Like I said, it was, you write down all these questions for, you think you have a tandem of both of these musicians, and you kind of have to weed through your questions when you're, to get a last minute cancellation. But, I figured, some of those questions could have, he could have answered some of those on his own and just, through his experiences and conversations that he's had with Glenn. So, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was when we first started it.
No, and I knew from other interviews I've watched of him, he's so down to earth and so personable. I knew it was going to be a very easy, relaxed conversation, and I'm glad we got to talk about so many different elements with him. He's such a great guy. Again, guys, even though he's off the air, I'm going to put this up one more time. Go get this album. The 3 songs I have heard are mind-blowing good, and I'm not just saying that because he was a guest. They are good. Go to thedeaddaisies.com/radiance-album and pick it up. It is just fantastic. And we're just thrilled we got to talk to Doug Aldrich. Yeah. Amazing. Let's real quick recap. Again, guys, sorry about last night. Technical issues happen sometimes out of our control, but we are going to get Mark Kendall rescheduled. So be watching for that. We'll have that date hopefully very soon. Next Wednesday, or I guess in a couple Wednesdays, September 28th at 8 p.m., we have Troy Luccketta from Tesla. That'll be episode 62. And then the following week on Thursday, October 6th, also at 8 p.m. Central, Anthony Corder of Tora Tora, episode 63. And then we have episode 64 on Tuesday, October 11th at 8 p.m. Central with Steve Brown of Trickster. So we're getting to talk to a lot of really cool guys, and it's just a fun time to be doing this. All these guys are really cool. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to all of them, and as well as the rescheduled of
Mark Kendall.
Yes, from Great White. There were so many questions I want to ask him, because I listened to their first album, and it's been a while since I've actually listened to that first album, and it is killer. It's nothing like the Lady Red Lights and all that stuff. This thing was like this heavy, crunchy guitar riffs. Jack just sings out of his mind. It just sounds so L.A. old school 84 heavy metal, and it's kick ass. It's nothing like that.
We've talked about that before on the show, how a lot of bands just started so raw and heavy, and then it's just a natural progression as you get more popular. The people with the money behind you kind of polish you up and make you what they deem to be more marketable. I say what they deem to be. What is more marketable? Not everybody in the world embraces the heavy raw sound, but some of us do. So
yeah. And as far as Glenn, we got the email about him not being able to do any interviews at this moment. I guess he got sick and they had to cancel a show. So, I mean, I was thinking, poor Doug, he's just kind of stuck in his hotel room. And he's like, oh, no, he's probably bored. That's why I don't want to stop this.
I know. I was tempted to push it, but, he had agreed to 30 minutes and gave us like 45 or closer to 50.
Right.
So that was super nice of him.
But so, had we had the whole Glenn thing was just a shocker, but we thought, we can still do this with Doug. I mean, Doug's a superstar in his own right, so there was still plenty to talk about. It's just, when you prepare for something and then it just, someone throws a monkey wrench in it, and it's just kind of like, now what? And you only have a few, just a little bit of time to kind of, I don't know, rethink everything. So
it went great though.
I was just kind of having to skip over questions that I had for Glenn. I was like, he doesn't want to talk about addiction and alcohol.
I almost asked Doug though, because I was going to ask. I don't know if you guys have seen the 2014 Quiet Riot documentary. This is when Frankie Banali was still alive. But there's a segment in there where Glenn talks in great detail about knowing and loving Kevin Dubrow and then the process of losing him. And he gets very emotional. And you can tell Glenn Hughes is a guy with a super big heart. And so I was going to ask him about that. I thought about asking Doug, being in this industry, I'm sure all of those guys have lost loved ones to addiction. And I was going to get into that with him, but honestly, it was probably best to just keep it more lighthearted and plus, I like talking about all the gear and music stuff.
He played the guitar that Tony Iommi initialed on that guitar.
Crazy.
And think about it. I mean, they've done collaborations with Tony with some Dead Daisy stuff, I believe. And I know that Glenn's got a big history with them. And we could have talked about Black Sabbath
forever.
And all of this stuff, and just would have been really cool. But
well, I got to go back to work. That's my problem.
But there's Brian Kirk's in the nines in the house. But
Tony and Gina.
I mean, it's just always one surprise after another. It seems like.
Yeah, but this was a good rebound, and I was excited about talking to Doug. I knew he was nice. I've watched a bunch of interviews with him over the last several days, so. The guy's incredible. Get on YouTube and look up Doug Aldrich and just see all the cool stuff he's done. The guy is amazing, and that was a treat to get to talk to him. So unless you have anything else to say, we'll go ahead and sign off and tell these folks that we'll see them in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you guys
September 28th. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Troy Lecata from
Unless
Tesla.
something else pops up, which
is always possible.
Always possible.
All right, guys. Much love from Tulsa Music Stream. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Go eat.
Bye.